The time has come, my friends. The lineup for Fantasy Boys is announced. And yes, the name is Fantasy Boys. The group name is Fantasy Boys. Why, you ask? I don't know. They didn't even announce it in the episode. I found out about it on Twitter. Like, sir, just know that this video is just going to be a lot of me ranting. And let's just get into this recap of the finale of Fantasy Boys. Yay! The main reason I waited to do this video today was so that I could understand the voting process. And I'm going to read to you what the caption said in terms of voting, because it kind of sums everything up as to how the rankings were done, but not quite. So it said, and I quote, "The winner of the two teams will be determined by the voting score from fantasy makers on site and the producers. As the two teams have different numbers of members, they will determine the winner based on the averages of individual votes from each team member. All members of the winning team will receive benefit points. The scores from today's benefits, on-site individual votes, global online voting, in-person voting, and the ongoing live text voting will be combined. The top 12 boys with the highest scores will debut." That is what was stated. So, since Sungmin's team had 7 members, Jungwon's team had 13 members, so they would average up their individual votes, and that would determine who won that round, as well as who would receive benefits. I find this stupid, because there was an easier way to do this. If they had done the eliminations before they made the teams, this could have been a lot easier, instead of you having 13 boys versus 7 boys. Like, I don't know why that they decided to do the teams before all the boys that got eliminated left. But I think that them doing that was just not worth it, because it just didn't make sense. Because it gives kind of an unfair advantage almost. And I don't really know how to feel about that. So we're going to briefly go over the performances, and then we'll talk about the rankings and my thoughts. So the first team to perform was Sungmin's team, and they consisted of, give me a second, it's here, I have it. It consists of Sungmin, K-Sol, Lingxi, Kangmin-so, Oh Hyun-tae, K-Dan, and Haseok. And not gonna lie, I was kind of worried about this team, especially since like a large portion of their members were gone and eliminated, which hurt my soul. But they surprised me, you know. They were arguably my favorite. Like, I think it's just because the song is more my vibe and like something I would go back and listen to. I think it was done very well, and every member in the team played their part, and they gave a very good performance, and I am proud of them. And then Jungwon's team performed, and I got a few things to say. While doing this video, I went back and I rewatched both performances, and I still gotta say that I think Sungmin's team did a lot better. The main reason I think that is because I don't think the song suited a lot of the members, especially because a lot of the members in Jungwon's team were kind of overshadowed by others. Like, for example, Jungwon's team consisted of Jungwon, Kim Woo-suk, Hikaru, Lee Han-bin, Taeseon, Hwang Jaemin, Santa, Moon Hyun-bin, Kim Gyu-dae, Kang Dae-hyun, Yuma, and Kim Jin-ho. And that's like 13 members. For a song like this, the fact that this song kind of gives off Fear by 17 vibes is not helping, but I feel like having this many members with varying popularities and like a lot of members on a very small stage was not the best idea. Like, I understand Jungwon's strategy of having a lot of members, so that way, you know, there's less you have to worry about, since not many of you will get eliminated based off of your popularity. That's understandable. But at the same time, it kind of felt like there was just a lot to look at and a lot to absorb when watching it. And it's not to say that it was bad in the slightest. I think that the vocals were executed well, the dancing was executed well, but I felt like it was too much for a small stage, you know? And I'm going to be bringing up My Teenage Girl a lot, especially the finale, so bear with me. In the My Teenage Girl finale, they had split up into 2 teams, and each team performed 2 songs. And they had a way better production. They had a way better stage production and a much larger stage than Fantasy Boys. I just don't understand why they downgraded. Like, they could have brought that stage down and like used that whole stage. It just felt like very cramped, if that makes sense. It just didn't feel as impactful or powerful as it should have, which sucks because I know that they were struggling a lot in terms of like practicing for the song, because it is a difficult song to produce. I am proud of them, but I just felt like it could have been done better. And then following the final mission, Hong Semin's team was given the benefits after scoring 2,282 points to Yoo Jung-won's team, who received 1,746 points. And before they announced the final rankings, they did a little get together in their room where they were pretty much, you know, getting out their frustrations with people, which I found honestly kind of funny and way too short in my opinion. And they showed their final night, you know, in the dorms together, which I thought was very sweet, because while I do hate the show to a certain degree, I will admit that the moments that these boys have shared together is very sweet, and I am very happy that I got to watch, you know, them start to get closer, make new friends, and like work towards their goal. And after that, they have their little fan song performance called I'll Be Here. And when I say I was so petty, okay, first of all, I like this song. The song was very cute, okay? I am so petty because we did not get that in season 1. Like, I understand that we got 4 original songs for My Teenage Girl, but we didn't get a single fan song. I feel disrespected. I felt disrespected, but I ain't gonna complain. And the moment y'all been waiting for. Now let's discuss the lineup. And keep in mind, the final lineup was determined by the benefits from the winning team, on-site individual votes, global online voting, in-person voting, and then the ongoing live voting that went on before the rankings were announced. So I'm going to announce it in the way that they did it, from 10th to 4th, and then top 3, and then 11th and 12th, because there's a lot to say about these rankings. So in number 10, we have Kim Woo-suk, which I am personally okay with. Woo-suk was one of my top picks, and I personally think that ranking 10th is probably best for him. You know, I didn't think that he was going to make top 5 or anything, even though I really wanted him to. But like, I feel like 10th is a safe place for him. Like, he has proven himself. Like, his progression has increased throughout the show. And despite him getting, you know, some harsh critiques, he's learned from them and has become a better performer because of that. And I am truly proud of him. And I just love the way that his sister, Susie from Majors, supports him, because she understands the struggles of being in a group like Majors, one of my old girl groups. I love them so much. I know they're struggling right now to like stay, like, you know, as a group. So I just pray that doesn't happen to Woo-suk, and we can fight through this together. So congrats to Kim Woo-suk. Now let's talk about 9th place, K-Sol. I already knew K-Sol was going to debut. He had the popularity to debut. And in all honesty, I think that he should not have been in that lineup, even though I knew he was going to make it. Because if you don't know, he has said and done some things that he shouldn't have really said or done. And a lot of people are hitting on it because of that. I see it on Instagram. I see it on Twitter. I have a fan account for Classy, Billy, Fantasy Boys, and Zero Base One. So trust me, I see it a lot. And like, I understand the hate towards K-Sol, especially since from my knowledge, he hasn't apologized for anything. So I am personally conflicted because I know that personally nothing most likely isn't going to change anything that could get him, potentially kicked out of the group. I don't see that happening. I don't know how to feel about K-Sol in the lineup. If you guys want me to, I can do a separate video where I just strictly talk about K-Sol as well as Fantasy Boys and like how this show has just done so many things to so many people. I'll do that. Like, I'm not going to go fully in depth into K-Sol at this time, but just know I personally don't think that he should be in the lineup. That's just me personally. Like, do I think that he has some talent? Yes. But in K-Sol's case, you can't really ignore some of the things that, made him like the way that he is portrayed, if that makes sense. So I'm going to move on from that and talk about Hikari, who ranked 8th place. I haven't really focused on Hikari until like the last few episodes, and if I remember, he was in the Crown team. I think that's when I started to notice him a bit more. He has a very good stage presence, and he has a great personality when he's on the stage. So I'm honestly was shocked when they announced his name, but I'm not mad about it, Then in 7th, we have Kang Min-seo, and if you know me, Kang Min-seo was one of my top picks from his demo stage. He has been killing it, and he didn't really get a lot of screen time. It's like the last few episodes, which kind of like made me, scratch my head a little bit, but I was just so happy that he was able to stay relevant long enough for him to gain the votes and debut, because I needed him to. He has, a lot of these trainees have so much talent that, let's be honest, pretty much went to waste, but I'm glad that Min-seo was recognized as well. So in 6th place, we have Ningxi, another one of my top picks since the demo stages back in like the first episode. I'm so proud of him. I'm just so happy that he was able to prove himself and showcase his talent, and I really don't have much to say about my top picks, because like I voted for them. Like, every time I voted for them because I loved them and I really wanted them to debut. So I'm proud of Ningxi. Next up in 5th place, we have Lee Han-bin, and I am proud of Lee Han-bin. I also, similar to Hikari, I didn't really notice him until like the later episodes, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't really notice him earlier, because he has such a really great voice. Like, Fantasy Boys YouTube posted videos about, all the trainees, their progression from episode 1 to episode 11, and I can understand why people like Lee Han-bin. He is very talented, and he's just been progressing ever since, and I understand why he gets the hype that he gets. And then at 4th, we have Oh Hyun-tae, and his ranking kind of shocked me, but I'm not surprised he's in the lineup. I mean, if you've seen the popularity that this man has, it's just been rising and rising and rising, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, actually. Do I think his ranking should have been a little bit lower over some people? Yes, but that's just personal bias talking. Everyone's going to have a bias. It's going to come up in many conversations, whether we like it or not. But Hyun-tae, he's been improving a lot. I think he is a very talented dancer, and he can only grow from here. So congrats to Oh Hyun-tae. Now let's talk about the top 3 candidates: Hong Sung-min, Kim Kyu-rae, and Yoo Jung-won. And this ranking shook the world. Like, when I saw this live, the chat was fuming. They were fuming. So Hong Sung-min ends up ranking 3rd, Kim Kyu-rae ranks 2nd, and Yoo Jung-won places 1st. So let's talk about Hong Sung-min. I was shook as hell when Sung-min was announced as 3rd, because how does Sunmin, who ranks consistently in the top for almost all the episodes of Fantasy Boys, get into the top 3? Like, at number 3. And I'm just trying to think, because this all has to do with votes, right? It had to deal with the online votes, it had to deal with the benefit votes, it had to deal with the in-person votes after the performance. I'm just wondering, how did Gyure ended up getting a lot more votes than Sunmin? And I'm not discrediting Gyure at all. I'm not trying to discredit anybody in this video, because they all did what they had to do, you know? But it just shook me at the time that Sunmin ranked 3rd, considering that he's been in the top consistently. But, you know, Sunmin, there's not much to say about Sunmin. He has proven himself from the get-go that he is a performer and he has to debut. Like, he has done amazing. Now let's talk about Kim Gyure. If you know me from the beginning, I had mixed feelings with Kim Gyure. I'll also talk about my mixed feelings with another contestant, which is similar to Gyure. But Gyure, I feel like Gyure needed a bit more time, you know? But throughout this competition, he has been improving. But I don't think that it was improving like enough to debut status, you know? I felt like it could have waited. Like, I'll wait until I announce 12th place to bring this up. But just know that I think that Gyure is talented and he has potential. I just felt like he personally needed more time before he debuted, and not because of his age. I know everyone's going to be talking about his age. I know everyone's going to be talking about the ages of this group. But just know, I personally think that he should have had more time training-wise. And then Jungwon, I always knew Jungwon was going to debut because I had hope in my heart. And because people wouldn't shut up about Jungwon, but not shutting up in a bad way, you know, not shutting up in a good way, you know, because Jungwon, I've been watching Jungwon since an audition, and when I found out he was going to be on the show, I was like, yes, we got to support. And, you know, I was just happy that he was consistently ranking in like the higher portion, you know, like always like in the top 3 almost all the time. And when he ranked first for the first time, you know, my heart, I kind of teared up a little because I didn't really expect it. I always thought someone was going to rank first, but Jungwon ranked first in the end, and I am very happy for him. And now let's discuss 11th and 12th place. So 11th place went to Hikaru, and I'm not kidding you, I literally shed tears, because Hikaru is someone who, even if he didn't make it into this group, I feel like he would have been fine debuting in another group or debuting in Japan or Korea as a soloist or as a group or whatever. But when they announced his name, I cried because I honestly didn't think he was gonna make it. As I'm getting choked up again, because it was a very sad moment, because I've been rooting for him since that EXO performance back in the first episode, and I've just always been rooting for him and voting for him and wanting for him to debut. And the fact that he did just warmed my heart. Like, I was so proud. And then now let's talk about the 12th ranking, which is also controversial amongst some other people. So the top 3 candidates for 12th place were Kaden, Taeseon, and Moon Hyunbin. And it ultimately goes to Kaden. And yes, I am one of those people that think it should have went to Taeseon, because Taeseon has proven himself. He has ranked consistently in the top almost every episode. Not to mention that he has experience. He debuted in Tracing. He was my bias in Tracing, but their company was garbage, so he filed a lawsuit and left the group, as he should. Their company was straight up garbage. Then he had a second chance in Peak Time, which sadly didn't last long, and he was eliminated in the first episode he was on. And like, Peak Time to me felt like his 3rd and possibly last chance to debut, or at least get some type of recognition. And I honestly thought like it could have happened, like he could have made his debut, and then when they didn't announce it, it hurt. And like, there's even a video of online of him crying in the finale because it, you know, he didn't make it. And I was just I felt so bad, and I didn't know what to do, because I didn't expect Taeseon to not make it. Same with Hyunbin to an extent, because Hyunbin, he's in Cypher. Cypher doesn't really have a lot of recognition outside of like certain groups of K-pop fans, but I think that hopefully this brought enough recognition to Cypher, because Keta was in Boys Planet. He didn't get to make it in the final lineup, but he gained some popularity. So I hope that kind of happens with sorry, my words are falling out of my head. It's like 1 a.m., almost 2 a.m. in the morning as I'm doing this. I also hope that kind of happens to Cypher as well, and I hope that they come back because I miss them dearly. But let's talk about Kaden real quick. Remember that person I was going to bring up? Let's talk about Yun from My Teenage Girl. Yun from My Teenage Girl, during her demo stage, you could see that she did not have as much training as some of her other members. And if I remember correctly, I think she said she had like 3 months of training before coming on My Teenage Girl. And she was mainly known as the visual, which is understandable because she is very pretty. I think she was even like the face of something for a while. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But that was pretty much what she was known for. And most of the time, they would just show her struggling. But despite that, after almost every performance, she consistently ranked in the top. Like top 3, top 5, top 2, consistently throughout the entire show. And there was even a moment where they had like a little head-to-head with another contestant and they were performing the same song. It wasn't the best performance, but Yun won. And I personally think that she shouldn't have won. And then in the finale, she was a candidate for the final 7th spot in Classy, which she ultimately did not end up getting. And after that, she went to her company, she trained for a few more months, and then she debuted in Triple S. And she's doing well. She has improved a lot. You can see it from her time on My Teenage Girl to her time in Triple S. She has improved a lot. And I am proud of her because I kept saying that people, I'll be honest with you, I know for a fact that people kept voting for her because of her visuals, not her talent. You could see it. If you watch the season, you would know people voted for her because of her visuals. And she just needed more time is what I'm saying. This is not to discredit her in any way, shape, or form. I love Yun, and I'm just stating my opinion. And that's also kind of a similar case for Kaden. Like, Kaden had very minimal training. He wasn't the best dancer. He wasn't that confident in Korean. But he also was timid and kind of anxious and worried that he wasn't going to do well because he knew he wasn't as good as everybody else. But he still tried. Similar to Yun, they both tried and they both kept doing their best to make a good performance. And I think Kaden also needed a bit more time. I think personally, Taesun should have been in his place over Kaden, but that's just me. I don't know how sorry, my throat's dying. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I don't think that Kaden should have debuted yet, and he should have waited. I feel like they should have waited until he had a bit more training to debut him in a group. But that's just me personally. Like, I'm not trying to discredit Kaden because he has been improving over the time, and his rapping has also improved. But in my personal opinion, I think he's a better singer. Like, if you watch the Shut Off performance, there's like a little moment where he's, singing / rapping-ish, and it came out really nice. And I think that he should do that a bit more than rapping, because I personally am not the biggest fan of his rapping voice, but I'm not saying that it's bad. I just don't know how it would necessarily fit the vibe of the group as a whole, because this lineup is weird as hell. But that's the rankings. My final thoughts, I think that they should change the lineup. I'm not trying to discredit anybody. I'm really trying not to. But this group is going to have a hard time. First of all, the problem with K-Soul, like, they were going to have a problem from the get-go if that man made it if that man made it into the group regardless. Secondly, they have minors in the group, which is already, for international fans, like a big no-no. Like, a lot of international fans don't want minors. Well, at least the ones that I've seen. They don't really want minors debuting in the group, and they think that they should wait a little longer. Which I understand to a degree, especially with Yude and Kaden, who are both born in 2009, who are literally like 5 years younger than me. And while I understand, that's also similar to the point of view that I had with Classy, where they have like 4 minors and like 3 older people. I'm not gonna say adults, because like 1 or 2 of them's an adult, and like one of them's like my age. If this is something that they want to do, then they should do it. But at the same time, they should be protected and be watched over by not just fans and not just from other members, but from their company and staff as well, if they are going to do this. And I just don't know how this group is going to make it, especially with all the backlash that's happened within the show and within some of the members as a whole. Like, I think I can safely say that My Teenage Girl 100 times better than Fantasy Boys. While I do have some grievances with it, at least it had a structure to it. At least the voting somewhat made more sense. And the only main problems I really had was that it was biased as hell in terms of voting. To a degree. Not all the time it was biased, but like a large portion of it was biased towards certain people. And their whole structure of the show pretty much changed like near the end of the season because of one performance. They just said, we're gonna scrap the whole idea and just make it based solely off of voting, even though their whole concept was to have, all the girls split up into groups based off of their ages, and then have them compete against one another in their groups, and whoever won that round would secure a spot for their team. And originally, if I'm right, it was going to be 2 freshmen, which are like the younger girls, then 2 sophomores, or 1 sophomore, I don't remember, 1 or 2 juniors, and then 2 seniors, which honestly I think is a good balance. But then they just decided to scrap it entirely because of one performance ending in a tie. So I don't know how to feel about Fantasy Boys. Now, the final thing I want to leave you guys with is, will I still keep supporting this group? To a degree is what I'll say. Like, I do have a fan account for these guys, and I will be posting more members than some just because of certain reasons and certain things. But all I ask is that you be kind to one another. Like, it's okay to voice your opinion, just not in a way it's going to harm someone, So in the comments, if you're going to comment, please be respectful to one another. Don't send hate or anything like that. And I apologize for this video being so long. I didn't expect it to be as long as it is, but I just need to get all my grievances out before I go to bed. So it's like 2 a.m. right now, and I'm going to pass out now. So that was Fantasy Boys finale, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Don't let go. You're mine. Can you let go?